back to my video. So in this video we are going to be adding Stripe payment to our e-commerce mobile application. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to go to the Stripe official website, and then make sure that you register with them. After you register, make sure that you go to the Stripe dashboard. So once your dashboard is displayed, the first thing that you need to do is you need to go to developers. Once you go to developers, go to API keys. So the API keys, we have the publishable key and also the secret key, right? And then the next step that we need to do is we need to go to the pub.dev website, and then we need to copy the Flutter Stripe package, and then make sure that you add it to your project, right? So after you've done that, the next thing that we need to do is we need to create a folder for our API keys, right? And then let's create a file for the API key. And then let's create a class for the API key. So what we need, the Stripe secret key. We need the Stripe secret key, and we also need this must be constant. We also need the publishable key. Let's search publishable key. Publishable key, like this, which we okay. So once we have done that, we need to go to our dashboard, to a Stripe dashboard. So make sure you copy this publishable key, and then just paste it, and then copy the secret key, right? So just copy the secret key. So this secret key must be secret. Make sure that you don't show it to anyone, because it's once someone has access to it, then they can do some transaction. So make sure that it's secret, right? And also make sure that, as a precaution, don't upload it to your GitHub repo, right? Okay. Okay, so now that we are done with this, the second thing that the other thing that we must do is we must go to the main.pub, the main.dat file, into our main.dat file. So what we need to do is we just need to say Stripe dot publishable key is equal to, we just access our API key. And then the other thing that we need is the merchant identifier. In this case, I'm just going to set it to my name. You can set it to your name, right? And then once we are done with that, let's go into our service folder. I'm just going to create a file named Stripe service. Let's just call it Stripe payment service .dat, right, like this. Okay, so it's going to be class Stripe payment service. Okay, so let's go to the Stripe website. let's go to the Stripe official website, right? So if we go to the Stripe official website, so this website, right? So you'll see that there are two things that we need. We need an endpoint to connect to Stripe. So first thing that you just need to register an account. I think you have already done that. And then for the server side, we need the payment intent. So the payment intent is used to collect the user's intent when they are making a payment. It's used even for tracking the payment and also tracking the state change of the payment, right? So now what we are going to do is we are simply going to create a payment intent, right? So create payment intent. So the payment intent, we need the amount that the user is going to pay. We also need the currency, and yeah, that's it. Okay, so it must be an asynchronous function. So we are just going to create a try catch block, right? So now what I'm going to do is map, to create a map with a string, and then the other type is going to be dynamic. Since we don't know, we are going to just call it the body, since we are going to be making a request to Stripe. And then the first thing that we need is the amount, and then I'm just going to say calculate amount, then I'll just pass in the amount. Okay, so we'll create the method for the amount below, because the thing is with the Stripe collects, it processes payments in cents, so we have to create a function to convert them. The second thing that we need is the currency. Okay, so let's just start in currency. Okay, and then once we are done, now what we need to do is we need to get a response, which is equal to await HTTP. So just make sure that in our project we need to add the HTTP package. So this allows us to make requests to the server, this HTTP package. Just copy this HTTP package and make sure that if you go to your pubsec.yaml file, just make sure that you paste it there in the pubsec.yaml file. Okay, so what we are going to do is the first thing that we need to do is we need to import our HTTP package. So I'm just going to paste it there, import package HTTP as HTTP, right? So after we are done, we need to make a request, a post request, right, to our Stripe server. So I'm going to say URI.pass. We are going to pass the URI to the Stripe server. So the URI is going to be HTTPS API stripe.com version 1 payment intents. As I've said, as you can remember, we're saying that if we want to collect the user's intent, we have to use intents. You can go ahead and read the documentation to properly understand what we are doing here. Okay. All right. So once we are done, what we need is we need the headers. Okay. So for the headers, we need the authorization. So for Stripe to verify that this request is coming from a legit from a legit mobile application, we have to pass in the authorization. With the authorization is going to be our API key, our secret key, this one, our Stripe secret key, right? So that's going to be the what? That's going to be the authorization, a bearer token, API key dot Stripe secret, like this, right? So yeah. And then what we're going to do, we're just going to set the body to the body. Since the body, we are going to send the body to the server. So this is the body. The body that's going, it contains our amount and the currency. Okay. All right. So now what we need to do. So what now we need to do after all this is done is we need to check if the response. We need to check if the response status code that we're getting from Stripe is equal to 200. So if it's equal to 200, that means we got a successful response, right? So when you get a successful response, what we are just going to do is we are going to just return a JSON to decode. We are just going to decode that JSON, and then we are going to pass in the response.body, right? All right. Okay. So that's it for the create intent. We are creating an intent to our Stripe API, right? And then what we need to do now is we need to catch any errors. We need to catch if there are any errors. So I'm just going to say catch if there are any errors. So if there are any errors, what we are just going to do is we are just going to throw an exception. I'm just going to throw an exception error to toString, right? Like this. All right, we have thrown an exception. All right, so what are we doing here? We are creating an intent to collect the user's payment. The intent is going to take two parameters. We have the amount and the currency. And then we are creating a body that we are going to send to our Stripe API, right? And then we are going to collect a response from the Stripe API. So, and then to the response, we are going to just pass in the authorization, which is going to be our Stripe secret. So this Stripe secret is then used to verify if our response is approved by Stripe, right? So then we just pass in the content type, which is the application / form URL encoded, and then we'll pass in the body, this body that contains the amount and the currency, and then we are going to check if the status code is equal to 200. So if that status code is equal to 200, that means that our payment is successful. Then we'll return a body, and then if we have an error, we are just going to throw an exception. Okay, right. All right, so now the other thing that we need to do is we need to display a payment sheet. Also, before we can display a payment sheet, let's just go ahead and take care of the calculate amount method. So let's just copy this. Let's just copy the name of this method here. Okay. And then let's paste it below. So it's going to take in a single parameter, which is amount, string amount. Okay, like this. And then we are just going to say final calculated amount is equal to double the pass amount times 100 dot to integer, like this. Okay, so what we are doing is that Stripe collects payments in cents. So we are just going to convert them. We are just going to convert the payments that that we are collecting from the user into cents before we can send them to the Stripe API. Okay, to string like this. Okay. All right, we are done with this method. Now the next thing that we need to do is we need to display a payment sheet. So we need to pass in a build context, and then asynchronous function. Let's just pass in a trackage block, right? So what we are just going to do is we are going to just say await stripe dot instance. So let's just import stripe dot instance dot we are going to present a payment sheet, and then if that payment sheet is successful, what we are going to do is we are just going to say stripe dot instance dot present the payment sheet, present payment sheet. Okay, and then if there is an error dot on error, so if there is an error, we are just going to throw an exception with the error. Okay. Let's okay. Then okay, so let's just get rid of this. Okay, let's just throw an exception with the error, right? And then we are going to say on stripe okay, let's just okay, and then what we're going to say is on stripe exception. Okay, on stripe exception we want to catch the error, okay, and then we want to show an alert dialog. So we want to show an alert dialog, and then the content is going to be a column. And then main, we need to display a main axis. Main exercise dot minimum, right? And then below we just need to display items in a row. Okay, and then icons dot cancel. And then we need to provide a color dot red, and then then below it, then next to the icon, we just need to display a text to the user that the payment has failed. Payment failed. Okay. Payment failed. Plus the error to string, like this. Can be invoked. Okay. And then after this, what we just need to do is we just need to catch another error, E, and then we just need to print that to the console, and then E, like this. Okay, so that's it for the display payment sheet. So this payment sheet is the one that user will use to enter their credit card, to enter their credit card or Apple Pay if you are using Apple Pay. So we just say display payment sheet, it takes in the context, and then we just initialize the instance of Stripe and then payment sheet, and then we just return the payment sheet, and then if there is an error, we are going to just display these exceptions. Okay, so now that's it. And then the next, and then the final stage. Now let's go up top. The final stage that we need to do is we need to just create an empty map, type string, and then dynamic, and then it's going to be a payment intent. Okay, and then we are just going to create a function of type future, and say make payment, and then build context, and then the amount, which is going to be double, of type double. It's going to be an asynchronous function. Okay, so let's create a try catch block. So now we are going to set our payment intent map. This payment intent map, we are going to set it to our method with create payment method, which we are going to get from Stripe, and then we're just going to convert these values to string. And then for the currency, you can just provide the currency symbol. If you want to use US dollars, you can just use USD. If you want to use euros, you can just use euros. And then now the next step, the second step, is we are going to initialize a payment sheet. So we're going to say stripe dot initial instance dot init payment sheet, right? Init payment sheet. So it takes in like payment sheet parameters, right? So we're just going to say setup payment sheet parameters. So the first parameter is the custom flow, which we are going to set up to false. The next is the payment intent client secret key, which we are going to get from the payment intent, and then it's going to be the client secret. So make sure that it's the client secret, because if you make any mistake, it can also be nullable. If you make any mistake, you are going to get errors from Stripe. And then we need the customer ephemeral key secret, which you are also getting from the payment intent, which is going to be ephemeral key. Okay, And then we need the style. We are going to use the style of the operating system. Theme style.system, right? And then we need the merchant display name. For the merchant display name, I'm just going to use my name. Okay. And then for the customer ID, I'm just going to use the payment intent and then customer like this. And then also, are we going to allow Apple Pay? Yes, definitely we are going to use Apple Pay. So I'm going to say payment sheet, Apple Pay. And then for the merchant code, let's just provide US. Yeah, US in caps. And then do we want to use Google Pay? Yes, well, we want to use also Google Pay. So payment sheet, Google Pay, merchant code, we are going to use US again. And then for the test environment, let's just say true, since we are testing the environment. And then allow delayed payment methods, we are just going to say true. Okay, so now we have just set up a payment. We've just set up we've just initialized the payment sheet. Okay, we've just initialized the payment sheet. So after that, we just need to display the payment sheet from our method. If you still remember this method, display payment sheet. Okay, so now that we have done that, I think we used a try catch block, so we just need to catch the error. Yeah, let's do it. And then let's just throw an exception if there is an exception. Yeah, like this. Okay, so now that we are done with our Stripe payment service, now what we need to do now is let's just pass in the ref object, ref from riverpod, because we are going to be using riverpod. So let's just initialize our constructor, Stripe payment service. Required ref, and then we're just going to set the ref to the reference. Okay, like this. All right, now that we are done, what we are just going to do is final Stripe payment service provider. This goes to provider, and then we are just going to pass in the Stripe payment service with the reference like this. Okay, so now that we are done, let's move to our controllers. So we are just going to say Stripe payment controller dot. All right. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to create a class Stripe payment controller. Stripe payment controller extends is going to extend the state notifier, state notifier type bool, okay, like this, and then we're just going to pass in the reference ref underscore ref, and then also pass in Stripe payment service, Stripe payment service, Stripe payment service, and then we are just going to pass in Stripe payment controller, required ref required Stripe payment service, like this, okay, and then ref is equal to ref, and then Stripe payment service is equals to Stripe payment service, and then we are just going to set the super to false, okay. So now what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to create the method for making payment for it. Which is going to take in the build context. And the amount. And then I'm just going to say Stripe payment service dot make payment like this, okay. Yeah, now, or let's just remove the async on async. Okay, now we are done. So now what we need to do is we're just going to create the Stripe payment controller. So note that the notifier provider, the state notifier is no longer encouraged. There is a new provider which I'm going to make a video on when we will refactor these controllers using the async notifier. I will make a video on that because I didn't want to confuse people. State notifier provider, Stripe payment controller, Stripe payment controller, and then a boolean. Okay, I provide the reference, and then Stripe payment controller. So it's supposed to be Stripe payment controller. Let's see if I made a mistake. Yeah, it's supposed to be Stripe payment service. Stripe payment controller, state notifier, provider. It's not defined why. So let's just copy this. And let me just paste it here. Copy. Let's paste it there. So I'm kind of getting an error. I don't know why. saying that state notifier, saying that bow isn't a type. Why? Control extends state notifier. Bow. Quick fix. Required super false. So why am I getting this error? Okay, so let me just try to copy this. Okay, so let me just try to copy this whole code and paste it inside. I don't know why I'm getting errors. Okay. Okay, expected an identifier. Super false. Expected an identifier. So let's just remove the async. The value of ref isn't used. But we have used reference here. So let me just also try to copy this. And then let me just paste it above, okay? So I'm saying that Stripe payment controller isn't a type. So let's try Stripe payment service provider like this. Divine name is. What's going on here? Stripe payment service provider. Which means everything is okay. Yeah, everything is okay. Okay, so we're just supposed to return the Stripe payment service so that this error would be gone. So that was causing the errors. Okay, so now that we are done, what you need to do is in your command prompt, right? So what you need to do is, like, in your command prompt, type cd ios, right? Once you type cd ios, type in pod install, right? Because we want to make sure that all the pods are generated for the iOS project. Okay, so once the pod is done generating all items, what we are just going to do is let's go to our checkout page, right? Let's go to our checkout page that we created. Okay, pages, and then checkout screen, right? Inside our checkout screen, when we create orders, right, After we create orders, and then what we need to do is we're just going to say ref dot watch, ref dot read, right? And then what we are going to do is a stripe payment controller dot make dot notifier, right? And then we need to just make payment. We then provide the amount. The amount is going to be the grand total, if you still remember. User data, right? Dot grand total, like this. Okay, yeah, that's it. So now let's run the application. Okay, so guys, so I've finally updated my emulator. So now the thing is, for Android, for you to use Stripe, just make sure that you go into your values styles.xml. Make sure that you use the theme.appcompat.light.no action bar. You make sure that you do the same thing for the values styles at night. And then make sure that you go into your main.kt file. So into your main.kt file, make sure that you import the flutter fragment activity, and then make sure that your main activity extends the flutter fragment activity, right? So that's what you need for it to run on Android. Okay, so let us test our Stripe API. Let's see if it's working. Yeah, let's go to checkout, and then let's place an order, as you can see. Okay, so you can use a test card that's available on Stripe, and then 1124. Let's just 1 2 3. Okay, so let's just click pay. As you can see, our payment was successful. So let's say if we just get rid of one item, let's try to use Apple Pay. Okay, as you can see, we can pay with Apple Pay. As you can see, we got a successful payment. So if we go to Stripe and then let's go to payments, you can see that these are our transactions. Let's just make sure that we reload the page. Yeah, you can see that these are our transactions. They were successful. So that's it, guys. That was it for making payments with Stripe. We are coming to the end of our series, so just make sure I stay tuned for the few remaining episodes.